Hey there, YouTube family. So today we're going to discuss the topic of how you should keep your reptile. Should your reptile be kept in a rag system, or should your reptile be kept in a glorious style enclosure? Let's talk about it, because it doesn't have to be an argument. Stay tuned. I really don't want this video to be too long, but I do want to touch on some very significant and key points. If you follow this channel, you would know that this is not a new topic for this channel or for me as a reptile keeper and or breeder. Experience is in fact the best teacher. So with that being said, when we get to these type of topics in the reptile community, I would love to see it come into a place where we can just have the conversation. And it's very important that we can have these conversations from educational stance, from scientific stance, from experience stance, that we can talk about this without attacking one another. But there's really no right or wrong. A lot of this is going to be based on what your experience has taught you. And I'll just share some of my personal experiences, even in recent years, that changed my mindset on certain things. And some of this being, I once thought the way that some people, are saying today, that reptiles should never be kept in a rag system. For the large part, I still feel that way. But there are some exceptions, and I'll tell you why those exceptions that I have learned through my experience. Now, mind you, before I started breeding ball pythons, I had already been doing reptile keeping for 30 plus years. So animals are not new. I don't keep, for those of you watching this channel for the very first time, one species of reptile. I have multiple species of reptiles, but very particular to snakes, I have ball pythons, I have reticulated pythons, I have Burmese pythons, I have corn snakes, I have a green tree python. I am missing something. Hope I said boa constrictors. Yeah. I still feel like I'm missing something, but it'll come to me. I have multiple species. That's the whole purpose of the point. The point is I have multiple species of snakes. And having multiple species of snakes, you just learn that different behaviors, different things apply to different species. And that's just the fact, guys. It's not an argument. This is just from if you keep them and experience. The other part of it is that how the person who's keeping that animal receives and or comprehends that experience for that particular animal they're working with. So that's again where the conflict comes in, I think, is that we're trying to apply the same methodology to every single animal that is owned in captivity, or every single animal that is owned, and it's impossible to do that. So today I'm going to share with you my mindset shift when I started to breed ball pythons. And a lot of people know that the reason why I did not breed ball pythons, guys, for years wasn't the fact that I couldn't be successful at doing it. It was just one of the things that I did not want to keep animals in rag systems. I did not want to keep animals in rag systems. So for a long time, being a pet keeper and loving my animals the way that I did, I am the queen of I want them to have enrichment, right? But I would say I have two pet ball pythons who are now breedable ball pythons that I found that once I took them out of their fancy enclosures and put them into the breeding rack, and I did this very scientifically per se. I'm not a scientist. I'm not claiming to be one, so don't come for me in my comments. Positivity in my comments. But I did notice that those two animals who should have actually been breeding, started a breeding cycle a year ago, did not start actually hitting their breeding cycles until I put them in the rack system. And as soon as I put them in the rack system, they went crazy with follicular growth. So for breeding purposes, trying to tell a person who breeds hundreds of snakes that their animals need enrichment, well, what do they have that animal for? That particular person, just kind of like if you owned a cow and your cow is to produce milk. You are farming for that cow to produce milk. You're giving that cow just enough enrichment so that cow can pursue a healthy life to get you good milk, right? Maybe totally different if you had a cow named Betsy, your daughter and your son was raised with a cow. Like how you may enrich that cow is totally different. How the lengths you may go. You may travel with Betsy if Betsy was a pet. It's different. So I think that it's all fair to say that we're having an argument that it's unnecessary. As a super pet keeper, I truly believe that depending on what snake it is, it should never touch a rack system, even at birth. You guys know I feel that way about reticulated pythons. My reticulated pythons will never see the rack system. My reticulated pythons, when those eggs hatch, will start off in small visible tubs because I think that's important for that particular animal, for my animals, based on how my animals have been raised and what I have actually observed with the parents of those animals, that it will be in my best interest so those animals are socializing very early, for me to put them in tubs and giving them enough space too, because they come out the eggs already as big animals. That's what my thought, my theory, and my processes will be with my reticulated pythons. My reticulated pythons that I have at pets, no matter how small they were when they came, never saw a rack system. They start off in quarantine tubs. They outgrow their tubs, and within 7 to 8 months, I put them in an 8-footer right away. That's my theory. There are many people who've been bonds for years, or many people who have been keeping them as pets like myself for years, who would totally disagree with me putting them in 8-footers so soon. I never had a bad experience, so that's my practice. I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. This is what I find is best for the overall mental health of my animals. My reticulated pythons are well behaved, I believe, because of how they are raised. And they are well behaved in all conditions, whether they are in breeding mode, whether they are in egg laying mode, egg pulling mode. They are very socialized because of that, I believe. So that's the practice that I will always use for my reticulated pythons. It doesn't say that the next man should do that practice. I will tell you, whoever I sell my reticulated pythons will come with a booklet, a pamphlet, to let them know how I raise mine and why I suggested they raise them the same ways and what benefits that I got from that. That's what I can do. But I can't make that person down the line determine whether or not they find something that works better. And, you know, might want to share that with me. And we just have to keep our minds open, the dialogue open. We should be able to post our public opinions about things without the discord that goes along with it. We should be able to make humor in the situations without the discord that goes along with it. So ultimately, what I think it comes down to is this. The fact is, are your animals healthy? Are your animals healthy? It comes down to, are your animals healthy? Whether your animal is in that rack system or if your animal is in a fancy PVC enclosure, which I believe in them. I have a lot of them around this house, okay? I will tell you that going forward, ball pythons that I breed will go into the rack system. I think that it helps them better with their breeding cycles for whatever reason. I don't have the science behind that, so I'm not going to tell you that my way is 110% correct. I'm just going to tell you what I've experienced and what I've seen and what the sonogram shows me. But are they healthy? Because whether you have your animal in a fancy PVC enclosure or if you have your animal in a rack system, if it's dying from a respiratory infection or IBD, it's still a sick animal. Next, I have behaviors. Watch your animal's behaviors. Is your animal behaving like they're content? Are they eating? well? Are they being defensive? Are they getting complete sheds? These are all the things that gives you signs that your animal is healthy. I can tell you that I truly believe that just like a human being, if our health conditions are not at its best, we will not thrive in any condition. So and if we're not able to adapt, we will die. So I think that part of that argument, you know, again, where it shouldn't be an argument, is that if your ball python that you're keeping as a pet loves the enrichment in your enclosure and then they actually climb, that is amazing. I have one ball python out of many who is that way, and he will never go into a rag system. I will never breed him as a 100% breeder. I have used him to help start my breeding, but I would not keep him as a 100% breeder. Busy likes to be in his closure. Yes, Busy climbs. Yes, Busy sits on top of his highs. Yes, you will see Busy at the top of his enclosures on a branch if you leave his branches in there. Do I think that I downsized Busy's enclosure as he got older? Because I think that it's not also sanitary to keep all that extra stuff in a large snake's enclosure. Yes, same thing with the reticulated pythons. As they get big, I start to remove hides. I keep large water sources because that's something that they need. I noticed that they digest in water. Right after they eat, they like to go in water and digest, and they normally prepare themselves for shed by soaking in the water for a day or two and then go off to shed a week later. So I notice those things, so I provide those things for them. And then at the end of the day, what is your animal's response to the enrichment? So I'm going to show you guys two ball pythons, Busy being one of them. Busy is a ball python who I've had for many years, and he's never been in a wreck. He's always been a pet, treated like a pet. Busy is part of the family. Busy is the one who snitch on other snakes. We make their joke all the time. He lets us know when someone's trying to do something they ain't supposed to do. That's Busy. I truly believe that if I put Busy in a wreck, he would be miserable. For whatever scientific purpose miserable is for a snake, he would be miserable because he does utilize his entire enclosure, all parts of it. However, all right, so here we have two different ball pythons. One, like I said, has always been a pet, always will be a pet. And that's Busy. Busy is my spider ball python. Everybody know this is my favorite snake in the house. Yes, I have very high end snakes, but this baby right here is my heart. And he just said he is just, we have history, right? And he's just always been such a dope snake. However, Busy has always been kept in a fancy enclosure per se, an enclosure that gives him a lot of enrichment, and he uses it. I can't lie and say he doesn't. Busy utilizes all of his enrichment. He loves to climb. He loves to go to different tiers and different levels. Yeah, and as y'all can see, Busy has no wobble at all. He's just a perfect spider, right? I'm perfect, and I love the spider gene. All right, so that's Busy. But I also have with me, what are you doing? Okay, so now here is Kim. Kim is another ball python. And Kim is kept in a rack. Kim is no different from Busy, except for Kim was always kept in a rack. His previous owner kept him in a rack. I keep him in a rack. But Kim gets a lot of outside the enclosure time as well. So behavior wise, they're pretty much the same. As you can see, I had to go find them because Kim, you know, doesn't stay still. He will go low and climb around on the floor if I wanted him to. He will sit here and he allows me to do the same things I can do with Busy and touch his head. He's not head shy, any of that. So my point is that you can see he's also healthy. Although a younger snake, he's also very healthy. He's a few years younger than Busy. He eats well. He's actually one of my breeders. He breeds really, really well. So there's no issues with Kim. So he doesn't see us as much as Busy does, of course. But he does see us. Well, he sees us every day because we check for water and poop every single day. And then, like I would say, probably like every other day, we take him out and just do stuff like this for a short period of time and put him back in as we change water or whatever the case may be. But the point is that you're not going to get the same perspective depending on what perspective in which a person keeps or breeds. What is best for the animal is based on, is the animal showing any signs that it's not. And that's it. Else that I moved into the rack system that I spoke about earlier seems to be much better in the rack system. And they never were snakes that use that space of that fancy enclosure like Busy does. So again, you observe the animal. What does the animal say to you? When I put them in the rack system, how do they respond? Did they stop eating? Absolutely not. They're eating actually more, I feel, efficiently and on schedule. Did they stop using the bathroom? No. Are they shedding? Yes. Are they developing? Actually, one of them is actually into ovulation now. So, you know, the animal is telling me what it would or would not want. Do I think that we should think from a broader perspective how big an enclosure should be for larger animals? Absolutely. But I can tell you this, being a reticulated python owner, I have reticulated pythons that I believe that I would have to some point build them a mansion, you know, if you want to talk about as much as they like to explore per se. And then I have other ones that I think they can live in an 8-footer for the rest of their life because they get enrichment out of the enclosure, and when they're in the enclosure they just rested and they're sleeping. They only are active when they're out. They don't want to be out all the time. Then I have others who, as I sit in here right now, the moment I walk into this room, come to the glass, want me to open the glass, and they want to come out. Those are ones that will literally roam this entire house, and I believe if we add on another 1,000 square feet, they will roam that too. The animal is going to tell you what they want. And ultimately, guys, at the end of the day, if we can understand that, these conversations could be held and hosted openly without ridicule, and just with, you know, some very good honest feedback and candid experiences. Because at the end of the day, some people commenting on this question don't own an array of reptiles, you know, so you only can go by the species that you keep, that 1 or 2 snakes you keep, compared to that next person who may keep 15 species and over 150 snakes. So that is very important. That's with any animal, whether it's snake or it's a lizard or if it's a turtle. You have to accommodate the basic needs of the animals and definitely, you know, grow upon or enrich the additional needs that that particular animal may have. And at the end of the day, that's all that it comes down to. It's not an argument. It's what is best for you, what has the experience taught you, and is your animal healthy in the conditions in which you keep them. I hope that helps. Feel free to leave your positive comments leave your comments down below. I just ask that you follow the guidelines as based as what I said in this video, that if you're going to have dialogue in the comments, that you have dialogue that you can have openly and without ridicule. To that, Lady Tiz Exotics, and I'm out. Peace. This video is sponsored by the Maryland Reptile Farm.